Pixar has been lying to you, not with fiction, with something far more deliberate than that. For 30 years, every Pixar film you watched as a child contained messages so dark, so psychologically precise, that adults who watch them today leave feeling like something has been done to them, something they cannot fully explain. Stay with me, because once you see what Pixar has been hiding, you cannot unsee it. Let's start with Up. In 2009, Pixar released a film classified as a family movie. In the first 4 minutes, before the story even properly begins, they showed the complete arc of a human life. Love, marriage, dreams, loss, death, in 4 minutes, with almost no dialogue. Film critics called it one of the most devastating sequences in cinema history. Parents reported crying before they could stop themselves. Children watched it and didn't fully understand why the adults around them were weeping. But here's what nobody tells you about those 4 minutes. They were designed that way, deliberately, precisely. Pixar consulted psychologists before a single frame was animated to ensure the sequence would bypass adult emotional defenses and hit somewhere deeper. Pete Docter, the film's director, described the goal simply. He wanted to make adults feel something they had been avoiding. Not something abstract, something specific. The grief of a life that didn't go the way you planned. The loss of a person who was supposed to be there and isn't. And this is where it gets genuinely dark. Because Up was not an accident. It was a formula. And Pixar has been running that formula on you since 1995. Toy Story. On the surface, a film about jealousy between toys. Underneath, a film about the existential terror of being replaced. Woody's entire identity is built on being needed. When Buzz arrives, Woody doesn't just lose his status, he loses his reason to exist. Pixar made that film for children, but adults who watch it today, especially adults who feel replaceable at work, report an entirely different emotional experience. That's not a coincidence. Here's what most people never find out about how Pixar builds their films. They don't write the emotional theme first. They write the wound first. The specific human wound the film is designed to touch. Toy Story, the wound of obsolescence. Up, the wound of deferred dreams. Finding Nemo, the wound of a parent's fear of losing control. The Incredibles, the wound of a life that peaked too early. Every film begins not with a story, but with a psychological target. Inside Out takes this further than any of them. Released in 2015. On the surface, a girl moving to a new city. Underneath, a clinically accurate depiction of how emotional suppression causes psychological collapse. Pixar hired actual neuroscientists and psychologists as consultants. The film accurately represents how core memories form personality, how emotional suppression leads to dissociation, and why sadness is not a weakness. It is the emotion that allows human beings to connect with each other. The villain of Inside Out is not a monster. It is joy. Joy's refusal to let sadness do her job is what nearly destroys the child. Pixar put that message inside a children's film, and millions of parents watched it with their children, without fully realizing they were being shown something about themselves. But this is the part of the Pixar story they never talk about. The reason these films work so well is also the reason the studio nearly destroyed itself trying to make them. In the early 2000s, Pixar and Disney were in a war over who owned the characters, who owned the stories, and who owned the souls of the people who made them. John Lasseter, the man most responsible for Pixar's creative vision, was simultaneously celebrated as a genius and later revealed to have used his power in ways that caused deep harm to people around him. The studio that made films about emotional honesty had its own history of emotional dishonesty that it took years to confront. WALL-E released in 2008, a film about a planet buried under its own waste, where humanity has become so comfortable and passive that people have lost the ability to walk. Pixar released that film 2 years before the rise of smartphones, before the attention economy, before a generation grew up unable to sit with silence. They saw it coming, and they hid the warning inside a children's film about a robot, because they knew adults wouldn't watch it any other way. Here is what 30 years of Pixar films have actually been. A series of letters to adults, written in the language of children's entertainment, because that was the only way to make adults open them. Every film targets a wound. Every wound is real. And every time you sat in that cinema thinking you were watching something for children, you were the actual audience. You always were. The next time a Pixar film makes you cry, and you find yourself wondering why a cartoon is hitting you this hard, now you know. It wasn't an accident. It was never an accident. This is ToonVault. There's always more to the story. And now you know where to look. Subscribe, and we'll keep showing you what was hidden in plain sight.